Southwest Fire Academy was established in 2015 as a response to the recognized need for quality, safe, and affordable fire and rescue training in Ontario. This is not your average fire college. SFA has high standards for their students, and it is their mission to teach and produce qualified, ambitious firefighters who are prepared to work hard to serve their communities. This is not a diploma mill. This is where you can learn strategic, aggressive firefighting from passionate, intelligent instructors who never forget why they were made to do this job. SFA is an accredited private career college that is regulated by the Ministry of Training, colleges, and universities, with a memorandum of understanding with the Office of the Fire Marshal. This means that SFA is an approved training provider with the OFM, and the programs are recognized in Ontario. Check out their pre-service and expanding selection of course offerings at southwestfireacademy.ca. Hello everyone. Welcome to episode 87 of Multiple Calls. I'm Scott Hewlett. The job is exciting, interesting, admirable, and celebrated because it's dangerous. It's dangerous because we're vulnerable. Firefighters like to think and act like they aren't human, but no matter how jacked, salty, and tattooed we are, we can't deny physics and biology. Everything has its limits. Our PPE, the apparatus, our tools and equipment, our minds, and our bodies. We ignore any of them at the peril of ourselves and others. Push any of them too hard or too fast, and they break. We're accustomed to dealing with crises and applying quick fixes, but humans aren't crises. They're projects, and projects take time. Firefighters don't hate change. They hate the process to get there because it's too slow and boring. How can I quick fix this? Brute force it. Find out if the limits are actually the limits. We are the authority challengers, the rule benders and breakers, and the risk takers. Sometimes it gets us in the right place at the right time when no one else could. And sometimes it gets us in trouble. Here's my chat with Ryan Hill.
We can just kick off by you telling me where you grew up and tell me a bit about your family structure.
I grew up in Winnipeg, Charleswood. I live in the house I grew up in. I bought from my parents. My dad was a firefighter. My mom was a social worker. So I had my dad around all the time. I always bugged him that he was a stay-at-home father. The time was awesome. He was always at home, and I always loved having him around. And then it's funny, you become a teenager and you sort of look forward to when he's working nights to have your time alone. But it was awesome having him around all the time. And then my mom was off summers, so we'd go camping and stuff. Growing up was awesome. My family was very supportive of me. I was a challenging child. Like, I had some learning disabilities. I didn't do well with authority. I was always challenging authority. And my mom was always pushing me, and especially with school. And she's giving me all the tools I needed to get to where I got as a firefighter. My father always put me in every sport that I was ever had any interest in. I was athletically gifted as a child, so I was always doing better than normal at sports. So my dad always pushed me to go into everything I had any interest in. So it was awesome. Like, I can't complain. Like, my dad installed this work ethic that never give up on anything, never stop trying, sort of thing. It came along with me my whole life. I've sort of known for my work ethic, I think. So I never really sit down. I never stop. I have a second job. So, like, on my days off, I don't really sit down. So
You guys used to ski a lot?
My family, we'd go every spring break skiing. My aunt lived in Whistler, so we'd go out there all the time. And I slowed down a little bit in my early 20s. You couldn't really afford to go when you were younger, right? So now I got a little more money. I bought a camper with a truck. So now I just I follow the weather. I go storm chasing. So it's awesome now. I got no responsibilities to get back home in the winter. So just bank some days and go skiing. It's awesome.
So school was a bit challenging?
School wasn't very hard for me. I'm dyslexic, and then I got really bad ADHD. I probably didn't really learn how to read until grade 4 or 5, and then...
Yeah, your mom put you in a private school, right? St. Paul's?
In grade 7 and 8, she sent me to Laureate Academy. It specialized in, like, children with learning disabilities. So I went there and I learned the tools, like, that I needed to succeed in life, like how to deal with all the disabilities I had. Like, I'm an intelligent guy. I just had, like, my reading comprehension is terrible. As you can tell from my letter, like my spelling and my grammar is just horrible, but I have other abilities that I was able to build off of to make those work. And then, so I had a couple of years of Laureate Academy, and then I was able to get into St. Paul's, which is a really awesome all boys school. I'm very proud to graduate from that school. Athletics was huge there. Like going to school there put me in a spot where I'd have a social network of people that I would need throughout my whole life for anything I'd ever be get into, especially if I went to business or medicine. It would have been worked out awesome. And it has worked out as a firefighter too, with social networking. Now that I have politicians that I've gone to school with that I'm sort of interested now because I'm in with the union and stuff. And so it's always I've come back to that school and all my friends I made there.
You shared the school motto is pretty cool, right? A man for others.
Yeah, that's a man for others. It's sort of as I move on to this different part of my life where I'm trying to get involved in my union or am involved in my union. It sort of had an effect on me on you're sort of out there working for other guys all the time, and which I sort of became really passionate about doing after everything I've been through. So it definitely had an effect on me. Yeah. So I'm very proud.
You mostly played hockey as a teen?
Yeah, I played hockey my whole life. My parents stopped paying for the expensive hockey when I started going to these really expensive schools. And I had a hard time doing that when I was a child. Basically when AAA happened, the coach actually called me and told me that it was a spot in the team, but my parents told me they weren't paying for it. So that was hard for me. My parents could afford it, but they liked traveling and stuff instead. And they were sending me to expensive schools. And now that I'm older, I understand why. And I always thought, you always think as a kid you're making the NHL, but my parents obviously knew I was not. So it was harder then, but whatever. I went on to St. Paul's. I was the first grade 9 ever to make it. I was a big kid, so it was awesome. I played a couple of years there, and then I sort of got heavier into football and left hockey for a while. So
you found football was beating you up a little bit?
I played 3 years of high school football. Then I played a year of junior football, and after a couple of shoulder surgeries and ankle surgery, and my head beat in a couple of times, and not remembering where my name is, and I was like, "That's enough. I got to move on, find myself a career, and get my life together." Right? My dad sort of gave me the talk that you only got one body and stuff, and you got to make it last.
How's CrossFit fitting in with that then?
I did CrossFit pretty heavy for 10 years. I backed off. I still do it on my own. CrossFit was really good. It's really good for being a firefighter, functional fitness. It's the crossover to being a firefighter is awesome. I go to fires and I'd be able to smash a wall down by myself without issue. It's just the power and the strength that it gave you, and just your cardiovascular ability for your anaerobic activity. It's unbelievable crossover firefighting. I've sort of, after my arrest and stuff, I sort of went away from it for a bit because I was scared. I was going to push myself again to kill myself. But yeah, I've slowly gotten back into it. I'm not as competitive like I was before, but I'd work on my own still. But it's awesome, CrossFit.
Did your dad expose you to the fire department quite a bit?
My dad had his friends that were firefighters. They'd come by after golf tournaments. I'd meet them that way. And they were all guys I still see around. When you were younger, you thought they were pretty cool. My dad was at the fire station. It was probably down the street from me. So I would ride my bike down there probably 4 or 5 times a year in the summer and just go hang out there for a bit. And it was awesome. And you go out and you see the respect your father got when you went out in public, and you realize that it was a pretty awesome job. And every time I'd see a fire truck or firefighters, you'd always ask them if you know your dad, right? It was a job I think I saw coming down the pipe for me. So
what were you doing before you got interested in taking that path?
I started that path pretty much as soon as I got out of high school. I knew I was going that way. I got out of high school. I went to university for a little bit while I applied to fire school. And university was a bit of a waste of time. So then I applied to be a garbage man. So I ended up being a garbage man for about 3 years while I put myself through paramedic school and fire school. And it was an awesome job. You get up every morning, jump on the back of a garbage truck, you fill it up a couple of times, you're home by 12, and you're just in the best shape of your life, right? So in the summer it was awesome. The winter it was a little cold, but
yeah, I love that you tell the story about your father lying to get you a paper route when you were young.
Yeah, he installed some hard work ethic with me. He had me working my butt off when I was a young kid, doing everything. I couldn't go play with my friends, and he'd call, come get me, bring me back until I finished everything I had to do. And then he got me a paper route job right off the bat. When too young, I was a big kid, so the manager believed it. So I was 7 years old delivering papers. So I hated collecting money though, so I made my mom collect the money. I would just go deliver the paper. So.
So what was the process like getting on when you finally decided to go at it hard?
Winnipeg was an interesting place to apply because you applied and you didn't have a choice. You could be a paramedic or a firefighter. So they put you where they thought you belonged. So the first time I applied, I broke my leg jumping off the back of the garbage truck during the middle of the application process. And that's sort of, I washed out, I guess, because I couldn't do the practical part. So the second time I applied, I did well. But then I got 78% on my medical scenario, which is, I don't know how you get 2% off in a medical scenario, but yeah, so that was my second time. So then I sort of got a little fed up and I applied to Edmonton, which their hiring process was pretty interesting. They still do it today. It's a year-long process. So I was getting hired there, and then I reapplied to Winnipeg at the same time. And I got hired as a paramedic in Winnipeg, and I knew I was getting hired in Edmonton as a firefighter. So I sort of told Winnipeg that I was going to go to Edmonton and be a firefighter. Winnipeg called me back right away, and about 2 weeks later, and said that I could be a firefighter if I wanted to stay in Winnipeg. So I took that. I don't know if I'd regret it now or not, but I love being close to family. After reading all these collective agreements, Edmonton seems like a pretty awesome department from all the stuff they do. Like, they have a lot of medical surveillance they do for their own members and stuff. So,
Did you work as a PCP?
I'm a firefighter PCP. So like I'm cross trained. So we, like, in Winnipeg, we do a ton of medical calls, and like I got stuck on a squad for the first 2 years of my life. So it's basically basically almost an ambulance, except not transporting. I volunteered a little bit in the country as a paramedic. Like, you needed to volunteer to get your license at that time, and I did that, and I got my license. And then being a paramedic's not my dream job, but I wanted to be a firefighter. So, but like I do like helping people, so I don't mind. I still have my PCP, but a lot of guys give it up after a certain amount of time. I kept mine. I still enjoy medical calls.
What was the recruit class like?
My crew class was awesome. I was one of the younger guys in there. It was good. We got along great. There was 12 of us, so like, I knew one of my brother's buddies was the youngest guy in the class, so I knew a few guys, and a few guys I played hockey with growing up got on. So it was awesome. We got on tight. I soon realized that I was always going to be a little bit of a troublemaker. I was always getting in trouble in the class, but I had a great time. I soon realized that I was sort of like, I felt like I was more gifted than others in the job in certain ways, with how mechanically inclined I was. So yeah, I really enjoyed my recruit class part. Like, sort of like got put in my spot a little bit, which I wasn't used to, but it was good for me. So it would go on to when I'm a rookie too.
Yeah, how were the rookie years then, if you were coming in a bit hot?
I went into one station. My dad was on the department too, so I went to one station. It's the biggest station in Winnipeg, and I went in a little cocky. Like, I was a young guy, and obviously you always play sports and do well in life, and then you sort of go off into the real world with a bunch of guys that have a lot more experience than you, and they're probably just laughing at me all the time. I got an awesome spot. I was on Engine 101. I was like hydrant on Engine 101 for the first 3 months. I was catching fires like crazy, and it was awesome. And then they start letting you drive after 3 months. They put me on a squad, and I sat in a squad for about 2 years just doing tons of medical calls, and that beat you down. Squads do about 6,000 to 7,000, about over 6,000 calls a year. So it's just like medical call after medical call after medical call, and you go to fires, but it's not the same. So it was a good beat down that I needed, and then eventually got moved out of that station to another station. So I learned a ton my first few years. I can never complain about that. The education was awesome.
You mentioned you have a buddy that survived a fatal fire before you got on. That has taught you a lot.
My buddy Lionel, he actually, in my recruit, like, he was doing his return to work with my recruit class. So we met in class. He was always helping us out. He gave us a story. It was awesome. Like, you should actually have him on here. He's a great guy. He does like the IF fireground survival stuff too. And then he ended up going to one station with me, and he's just always there, the most positive guy in the world, just always helping me out, like, just always educating you. Like, he's always about training and telling you like better ways to do things, which is awesome. And we still talk to this day all the time. Like, I talk to him probably at least once a month on the phone at least about stuff that's going on. So it's a great guy to meet in your first couple of years on the job. So I met a few great guys like in my first couple of years, actually. Like, I think I had a lieutenant that I ended up working on the side with all the time, and he's probably one of my best friends now. He's retired, but we talk lots, and I go visit him still. And I was lucky to have him around, and he gave me the tough love that I needed too sometimes. But then we'd always have our life stories, like when we're hanging out on a roof, and
Yeah, it must have been pretty impactful to be hearing warnings or teachings from somebody that went through something that hairy.
he had 2 fatalities there. It was the last 2 fatalities Winnipeg had. It was a year before I got on. He happened to fall out a window. Doesn't remember falling out and it saved his life falling out the window, and so, but he's burnt up and stuff, and it took him a long time to come back. And yeah, it's very impactful. Like, you learn to respect what people have gone through, and you learn how to, like, especially when you go through something yourself, then after you realize what people have gone through, it has a big effect on you.
You've had your own experience that you can pass on as well now.
But yeah, I have my experience. I killed myself in the gym. I had a day where I came back. I was off. Well, I hurt myself skiing. I knocked myself out. I broke my helmet, cracked my helmet in half, and took about 6 weeks off the gym. And the day I was coming back to work, I was like, looked at myself in the mirror. I was feeling beefy and stuff. And I was like, today's the day we get back in shape. So I took some weight loss pills, like, not even thinking, to suppress my appetite, and decided I wasn't going to eat that day and just pound coffee. So I drank about 10 or 12 coffees that day. I worked out a bunch of times. So the first workout I did was at work. I did a CrossFit workout at work, and then decided I'd sign up for another CrossFit workout after work. So I drank some pre-workout and headed to that and did that workout. I was probably put myself in a rhythm already with caffeine through that workout. My friend who teaches the class said I looked white. Like, I probably wasn't perfusing good already. So I probably already put myself in a rhythm with caffeine there. So then I decided to go do a spin class after and drink another pre-workout drink. I was feeling a little off, like faint during the workout, but I was like, wasn't paying attention to it. I was just like, oh, this is me just being out of shape. I kept on going, and then I felt really faint where I could feel my heartbeat in my head. It was like boom, boom, boom. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to like really faint here. So I unhooked myself from the bike before I took out the whole row of bikes in the back, and decided I was going to lie on the ground. And then halfway to the ground, I guess I'm dead. So the guy next to me was watching me. He said, you were going to lie down, and then halfway, and my eyes rolled in the back of my head, and I hit the ground.
And then when you woke up?
When I went to the ground here, I could sense someone was on top of me right away. You can hear for about 10 or 15 seconds what's going on still when the lights were out. So I could tell someone was on top of me. I felt safe, which was weird. I'm lying on the ground, and it felt like seconds to me, but which probably about 5 minutes later, I open my eyes and I'm watching a stranger do CPR on me. So I'm like sitting there for about probably 10 to 15 seconds with not enough strength to pull them off me or anything, just my eyes open, waiting for my heart to start perfusing properly again, I guess. Then I pull them off, and I started laughing. I'm first doing CPR because I've been to a million calls where people have fainted and had CPR done on them, and I thought that was probably the same thing that just happened. Shows me the pads, and he's like, no, buddy, I shocked you, and there's all my singed chest hair on the pads and stuff. And I was like, wow, it set me back. So then about 2 minutes later, the boys come walking in from 12 station. So I was telling them, like, I couldn't believe that I just got shocked. So I was on the phone with my girlfriend at the time too. I was like calling her. She's a paramedic. She was actually supposed to be in the class with me. So I was telling her I just died. I gave the phone to the captain on the call, and he was just laughing, saying Ryan went too hard in the gym, not realizing what happened. At that point, I probably should have refused and went home. No, went to the hospital, so it didn't affect my job. But I went to the hospital, and then the rest of the next 2 years is the biggest battle of my life that takes place.
At the hospital, they couldn't find any reason?
Yeah, I went to the hospital. The ER doctor thought that I'm going to put myself like in a fast atrial rhythm, that it might have mixed up the AED, but we got a copy of the defibrillator, and I was in V-tip. At the hospital, I spent 3 days there. I got all the tests they could do quickly done there. They can't figure out what happened to me. I wanted to leave the hospital because it's not a fun place to be. One doctor, an electrophysiologist, said, well, why don't we get this defibrillator in case something ever happens again? And I was like, sounds great to me. This thing sounds amazing. And then I asked about my job, and the doctor was like, oh, no, this defibrillator will have no negative side effects. It won't affect your job whatsoever. It'll be your whatever medically we find wrong with you. Because I think there's only 7 Canadians a year that actually survive idiopathic cardiac arrest. So most, they thought for sure they'd eventually find something wrong with me, because it's very rare someone kills himself the way they do, like they did with me. I was thinking they'd probably find something eventually anyways, but they never did. Well, not in the 3 days in the hospital. It would take about 6 months of actually investigating. I got full body scans and everything.
So when did you have the defibrillator implanted then?
3 days after I arrested. I left the hospital the day after. I was lucky enough to get into cardiac rehab. This was right before COVID started. So I was lucky enough to get into cardiac rehab, and I was able to go there and do a stress test within probably 10 days of dying. I went and did a stress test, and there was a cardiologist in the room. So I was a little bit afraid to go push myself. And the cardiologist told me, go all out. And I did. And I felt good because I knew I met the minimum standard. I already looked at all the minimum standards to get back for being a firefighter. I had to get like 13 mets on a stress test, and I hit 18. So I knew I'd be good that way. So I did that, and it was I knew at that point I'd be able to start working out again the way I used to. That was good to know. I actually had to get my settings changed because the defibrillator would start like looking at me and doing like a rev. It would start taking control of my heart, revving up and going down when I hit 183 beats per minute. So I'd be on the Peloton. I bought a Peloton right after I killed myself on the bike, which is funny, but COVID closed down every gym. So I got a Peloton at home, and I would sit at 180 exactly, and sometimes like on the bike as hard as I could. And then eventually I talked to my doctor and my settings all changed so I could work out as hard as I wanted to again. Because I was worried about I could never be a firefighter because the way the settings were is like I knew in a fire that my heart rate would blow through the roof. Like this thing would start trying to like give me like shock me to bring my heart rate down. So I was like, I don't need that.
Yeah, because it's only just like a real AED. It's only sensing electrical activity, so it doesn't know whether the heart is beating or not. So it probably thinks you're in a pulseless VTAC.
It can sense a few things. So like my overdrive set at 210 or something like that, or 208. So it takes control and it goes up and down. Like it's like a rev limiter on a car. It'll do that. And then if I hit 256, it'll just shock me. And then it also paces me too at 45. So when I sleep all night, it actually paces me because I have a pretty low heart rate to begin with. So in 45 is the lowest I can get it set to.
But you're not aware of it?
I felt it once when I was on the bike, when I was went past 183, and I could feel it taking control of it a little bit. But no, I've never noticed it. Like the only time I noticed it, I can't do clean, like a heavy clean like I used to. Like I can drop it down on my defibrillator. I don't want to rip it out, like rip it down on it. But like that's the only time I notice it. Like I still play hockey without shoulder pads on. I don't notice it any other way or anything.
But he was reassuring you that there wouldn't be any effects to your job as a firefighter if you were healthy, and you said he was wrong. And it was a bit of a fight to get back to the job, so maybe just walk me through that.
Okay, so NFPA 1582. So you look at the cardiac stuff. The cardiac stuff was done in 1991. So I don't remember if you remember walking to 7-Eleven where they'd say, hey, the microwave might be in use, so watch out for the pacemaker. So when these all standards were being made, that's sort of where they were at. So basically they were talking about electromagnetic interference. Basically, the biggest concern was me getting shocked unnecessarily at a fire because of like a microwave going off. So I was fighting with my occupational health nurse, giving her all these doctor's notes, and she would kept on saying that I was dangerous and putting everyone else at risk around me and stuff. And she would never come out and they never actually told me no, I could not come back to work or anything. They would never give me an answer. They sort of just left me in limbo, which was really hard. And finally, I went to this doctor in Toronto. He's like world renowned. Got a letter from him and brought that to her, and she still said no. And then my union wasn't really doing too much for me too. I'm lucky my brother was a doctor, and he started talking to other doctors, and he's like, no, like this is discrimination now, basically. I had a doctor look at NFPA 1582 at the cardiac stuff, and he asked me if a firefighter actually wrote it, not a doctor. So they're like, anyone that's like had a heart attack or anything like ischemic like heart like an injury would be way more dangerous than me because I don't have a normal EKG anymore and all this stuff. So yeah, like I basically had to go get this doctor to compare everything that was allowed to me on how much more dangerous it was for my union to go legally after the departments for it. So to get my union involved was a bit of work too. Like
you said they weren't very supportive.
No, they weren't. So I basically had to get a lawyer involved in my emails with them for them to help me. One of my executives at the time told me that my defibrillator was like a smart car that couldn't drive itself. Guy has no medical training, right? So, well, they're all looking at NFPA 1582 thinking that's the Bible, right, on medical stuff. So yeah, it was hard for me to do that. And then I found out my president was telling people that I could just faint at any time too, and which was untrue. I was never diagnosed with anything, right, that caused me that kind of issue. So I did it to myself. It was idiopathic, right? Like you just need to listen to your body a little more than you. Yeah,
you can be horribly out of shape and no one questions you on the back of the truck. But if you've got a ICD, all of a sudden you're a risk.
When I went back and I was put on light duties, when you're on modified duties, if you don't do it at work and you're not on workers' compensation, you get paid only like 2/3 your wage only, right? So that's actually terrible. That was the worst feeling in the world, getting paid less. They sent me to this place called the Tower, and it's a depressing place if you're a sick or injured firefighter. But I put in my head that this was gonna be my country club. I decided every day I'm gonna come in here, I'm gonna work out as hard as I can. My biggest my biggest thing I'm gonna care about is just getting the best shape of my life. And I got in absolutely great shape when I was on light duties. I spent probably 5 hours in the gym a day when I was on light duties. So I wasn't getting much done, but I was getting in shape.
So after not really being supported by your union, you actually decided to join the union and maybe try and make some changes yourself.
Yeah, I ran for a union. I ran for an executive spot. No one should be treated this way. Our union does a lot of good things, but they sort of leave sick and injured guys off on their own, like to fight for themselves, which I didn't agree with. Yeah, I ran for union, and it was a by-election because someone gave up his position to be a chief. Yeah, there was 4 guys running, which usually no one runs for union spots. So I ran against 4 guys. I actually did really well. I'm trying to make a change. Our union's an old guys club. Like, it sort of hasn't changed in the 20, 30 years. I'm trying to make virtual meetings a thing right now, and that's a battle. So I'm trying to bring them up to where technology is, where they can get more people involved, more things. Like, there's a lot of things they're sort of falling behind in, and I hope to bring up to speed. In Winnipeg, we're some of the lowest paid firefighters for how hard we work, especially their medical calls. I think we did 140,000 calls last year, and compared to a lot of other major cities, we're way behind. Especially we're having PCP, paramedic firefighters too.
Do you get paid extra for being a PCP medic, or are you all trained to that level?
After a certain amount of years, I think it's 12 years, after 10 years, you get paid extra. I got an extra 5%, which it's not worth it. It's a passion project. It's a lot of extra responsibility, for being a PCP, but I don't know. I enjoy the medical aspect of the call. A challenging medical call, I find very interesting. I might make a motion to vote to leave the PCP program because guys are getting sick of the calls we're doing, right? And we're spending a lot of time on scene waiting for ambulances, basically babysitting now too, we're getting sick of that.
Do you have a different view of the cardiac patients that you encounter now that you've had this happen to yourself?
Oh yeah, I get so into cardiac calls. I'm always especially arrhythmia calls, electrical calls. I get really into that. The ischemic chest pain, I'm not the best at reading 12 leads that way, but as soon as I get into rhythm stuff, your long QT stuff like that, I enjoy seeing that stuff.
Do you guys have a medication list that you can provide?
For PCPs, we have terrible, we do nitro and that's it, and ASA. We're not given too much responsibility.
Do you guys do IVs?
Some do. I'm not. It's very basic. The stuff that we've been given is very basic. My girlfriend's been a paramedic for 12 years and she doesn't even do IVs in the city. Only certain, if you started IVs outside the city, you can do it inside the city, but the medical stuff we're allowed to do is very, very basic. We do have ACPs and practitioners and chase trucks and stuff, but our scope of practice is pretty small as PCPs. It's very basic, which unfortunately.
Are you seeing your own mortality differently?
I don't want to waste a day. If I ever go out drinking, I'm hungover, I hate myself. I don't like wasting a day. I don't want to waste a day off. If I have holidays, I don't have anything planned for it, I am not happy with myself. It's every day is a day you gotta love and take in. You gotta be so happy, just to be here. It can be gone in a second, man. It can be gone in a second. In being a firefighter and coming back to the fire hall, being told that you'll never be a firefighter again, and then coming back to the fire hall, it's the best feeling being in the fire hall. There's nothing like that. I love coming to work and hanging out with the guys. There's not much like it.
So you almost had a rebirth with love for the job.
Well, love for fires too. I've always loved fires, but when a fire comes in, wow, it's the best. I try to control myself. I vibrate and shake and stuff, but I get excited. I love kicking in doors and going on the branch and bringing the line. It's having that taken away from you. When you think you're gonna be doing that the rest of your life, and then boom, it's taken away, and you're oh, you might have a desk job the rest of your life. That wasn't me, man. That was not me. So yeah, being back in the halls is the best.
Do you have any plans to promote?
It's all seniority based Winnipeg. So I'm actually we have to do ESI and then my officer level 1. So the ESI is very challenging for me being dyslexic. It's hard. I got to rewrite that test. then I got to do my officer one. So I would probably be an acting lieutenant this summer coming up. I'll probably be next winter by the time I have all my schoolwork done. So I might go past me a little bit, which is not a big deal. I missed a few years of branch time, so I love where I'm at, like branching and being the senior guy in the hall. So it's not a big deal to me to be an officer. I'm in no huge rush, and I have 15 years left, no matter what. Like we have to stay till 55 anyways, otherwise we get a huge penalty. So it's no big rush to be an officer, but I like being on the nozzle the most, so it's hard to want to leave.
Will they make any accommodations for learning disabilities for writing for promotion, or is that something you're going to work on with the union?
I just started working on this actually. Yeah, it was awesome. We have Brandon Fire College. It's like our provincial fire school. So they actually do all the testing. I had conversations with them. They're putting together audiobooks. They're actually going to read out exams to people that want it. So with our department now, we just got to talk to, there's a person that deals, like accommodation person. So you just got to let them know beforehand if you have learning disabilities, and they're going to work harder for this now with people too. Yeah, that was my like first thing I actually sort of changed with the job. And that was just recently too. That was like a meeting for that last week. I'm trying to change as much as I can, but we'll see how it goes.
Is there anybody else on your department that's struggling with the same challenge with the department?
I'm sure there's been a few. There's like, guys don't like talking about it and stuff too. Like I'm pretty open about talking about everything. And guys don't like talking about failing tests because they have a hard time reading. I know there's a few guys that have had to work hard to pass, and some people don't like get school easily. Like I understand. So, but I'm hoping that like people will be easier to come forward for people to discuss the issues they have, right? And for a lot of learning disabilities, like I was probably like on the cusp of it, being like an 80s child and stuff, like where it was sort of like in the 90s it sort of came to light and stuff. So guys a few older, like a few guys a few years older than me were never diagnosed with stuff, right? They probably just dealt with it their whole lives. Guys younger than me are probably more people than ever probably have ADHD, but yeah. It'll become more popular with time that goes by, right? For people with learning disabilities to be accommodated properly.
It seems like you bounced back pretty quickly mentally. Was there any dips?
Yeah, like not being back at work was hard for me. Like I couldn't even talk to firefighters. And like, that's the thing. Like when you're a firefighter, you make a lot of friends that are firefighters. You don't even want to be around them when you're not allowed to be one. And you don't want to see people. And it just reminds you missing work. That was hard. And then I got diagnosed with normal reaction disorder, like through the whole fight, where I get a little, like I react a little more intensely than I needed to with things. I've gotten pretty good at controlling that. Like there's some things that bug me where I get fired up, and I've tried to deal with that kind of stuff better. So I've gotten better with that. 2 years of fighting. I was lucky. My girlfriend was awesome, the best support ever. Like she's been a rock for me through this whole situation, pushing me through. And when I wasn't at work, I'm sure she got sick of everyone asking her how I was every time. So, but yeah, I'm lucky to have her around, and she's helped me deal with all my stuff. And I get emotional easy. Like when I like see people suffering and dealing with hard things themselves, I relate a lot easier, and I get upset, and I try not to let that bug me. But
yeah, so how do you process that? What's your coping strategies?
I try to slow down a lot. Like guys at work sort of know sometimes I'll tear up a little bit. Like we had like a 9-9 like right before Christmas, like an old couple, and it was hard. Like I got upset about it a little. Like I just sat in the truck, and sometimes you gotta have a good cry too, right? So yeah, I deal with it well. Like I've always wear my emotions on my sleeve, and it's a little bit more than now than ever. And guys like sort of accepted me that I'm an emotional guy a little bit sometimes. So I'm just lucky to have the guys around me that all support me for everything I do. And being part of the fire hall is one big family. So it's just everything's been awesome in the fire hall.
Have you ever sought counseling? Do you have someone you talk to?
There's like a big like connection between like cardiac injuries and depression and stuff. So everyone that survives a cardiac arrest sort of gets a counselor for a bit. I got my counseling, and I was dealing with some depression and stuff, but they diagnosed it basically because I wasn't getting my job back, and they sort of blamed it on that. So I got counseling for a while, but I wish I got it longer. I probably do need to do some counseling, some more still, and I've probably just been putting it off. I had a few counseling sessions. I got diagnosed with my thing, but then they blamed my issues on not getting my job back rather than my cardiac arrest. It wasn't paid for anymore. Our benefits with our department aren't the greatest.
Another challenge you can work on.
Oh yeah, there's so many challenges that I got to work on with that.
Do you instruct at all? Are you interested in instructing?
One of my first jobs in light duties before I got a little bitter about not getting my job back was helping out with a rookie class, and I really enjoyed that. Like the thing about me, I'm not the most serious guy, so I'm good at helping them out, but I'm not like the disciplinarian that they need. Like I'm a little bit too relaxed, I think, for being an instructor. But like I love going over stuff like I have two younger guys in my crew. I love going through like YouTube and stuff on stuff that I think that really matters for firefighting. Like we learn stuff at work, and I don't agree with all the stuff we learn at work sometimes. I like to show the guys on what I think works best, like what the old guys told me and what's been passed down to me from the guys saying just letting wet water fly when you're going in a basement fire, everything like right. So it's stuff I try to show. The stuff on your Instagram's awesome. I've been using that to show all the young guys too. So I actually share a lot of your stuff.
Nice. Have you dived into the UL stuff at all?
No, I haven't yet. No.
You'd probably love that. It's all self-paced learning, right? The UL FSRI. There's a lot of courses in there. It's all free and it's all self-paced, so you can sort of pick away at it as you want to.
Our department, like on the training side, is hurting. I think there's only 4 training officers for about 840 guys. So it's training doesn't have a huge budget. So it's
a lot of divisions are understaffed and overwhelmed.
We're trying to switch to a 24-hour shift now. So I think if we switch to a 24-hour shift, I think our training is gonna be like our day will be more broken up or like regimented, where you actually do some more training and stuff. So I'm hoping that happens.
What shift are you on right now?
We work 2 10-hour days, then we're off for 24 hours, then 2 14-hour nights, and then 4 days off.
Oh, and that just rotates.
Yeah, we're like one of the last departments still doing that.
Yeah, that's a strange one. I hadn't heard that one before.
Yeah, do you know what? I actually I met another firefighter from Seattle while I was skiing, and he's telling me about his shift. And then I started doing research in it, and we have a Facebook group, and I was like, guys, we got to go to a union meeting, get this going. So I got 200 guys to show up to a union meeting, and we got it going. So we're in contract talks right now. So I think it's part of our contract that's coming up to see if we get it or not.
Yeah. What rotation are you pushing for, or what department is similar?
As our membership voted on a 24-hour on, 24-hour off, 24-hour on, 5 days off. It's a lot of time off. I was hoping to get the 48 off between the next day. I think that's better for your health. But I think everyone just sees the 5 days off and wants that. Yeah, everyone's concerned about our call volume, like just being a busy department. But from the research I did, like Vancouver's got pretty busy stations, and they do the 24 there, and they love it.
Do you guys get beat up every night? Do you get any downtime? Are there any quiet nights or?
I'm at 10 stations, so I'm like, if there's a good night, like, we can get a lot of fires or loss. Like some nights can be good. Like I'd say like 50% of the night time, like you can get like 4 or 5 hours. It's not like bad. Like if you're downtown, you get beat up. Like yeah, there's no doubt. Like downtown, North End, West End, you're getting beat up. There's some halls that are not, and like we also we're responding to so much medical stuff. Like we're picking people up off the ground at old folks' homes and everything. Like they send fire to assess on a lot of medical calls now that when there's ambulances not available, and you have to sit in there for like half your night waiting for an ambulance, right? Like in Winnipeg, like almost 60% of the time, there's no ambulances available. So it's a crazy situation we're involved with.
Do you guys eat together? You seem like a kind of guy that would want the crew to eat together.
Oh yeah, we eat together. Yeah, I used to cook lots, but then I was off for 2 years. I forgot how to cook. So I got some young guys now that know how to learn how to cook, and they're really good cooks. And yeah, we all eat together. Try to eat healthier now. Like it seems like heart disease is a big thing now with firefighters. So I'm trying to push a little bit of healthy eating and stuff. So.
And what's your relationship with caffeine like now?
I still love coffee, but I'm trying to be better. I really, I do enjoy my coffees. My girlfriend likes to control my caffeine a lot. She told me back. I do not go near pre-workout drinks ever, like ever. I'll have 2 coffees in a day and try to hold it there. Caffeine sort of scares me a little bit now.
So none of the energy drinks or?
No, but I could see after I died, I did like a little bit of research. Like I monitored myself up and I'd pound some caffeine, and you'd hit a workout and I could tell why I loved it. Like my heart rate would hit that spot way faster, and I'd get into a way better, like I could be performing way better, way faster. So that's like, I could tell why I loved it so much. But yeah, now it's just like, I gotta push myself harder to get to my heart rate to that level where I can perform better. So I gotta do it more naturally now. So yeah.
Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
I don't know. I don't know. Like anything else? Like I don't know. Like we do get a lot of fires in Winnipeg, so I don't know if you want to know that. I think we're like the fire capital of Canada. So like I melted a helmet recently too. It was awesome. We're using Euro helmets too now in Winnipeg too, eh?
You're using Euro helmets?
Euro helmets, yeah. We just started moving. I melted my old helmet like in a fire, so now I got this Euro helmet.
Oh, so if you need a new helmet, they're shifting everyone to Euros.
Yeah, all the rookies are getting Euro helmets.
So how's that going over in your department?
It's not good. I'm trying to part of the union. I'm trying to figure out if the union agreed to this even. So yeah, I'm trying to see if they agree to it. Like I'm sure they're safe and stuff, but you can't hear a thing with them on. Like, I had a fire with a fatality about 3 weeks ago, and the guys are yelling at me. And I basically I almost had to take my helmet off to hear what they're saying. I was standing on the body. I didn't even know. Yeah, like you can't hear anything in the Euro helmets, and then like they don't have the brim in the back. I've had water. You have water going down your back, and then you walk outside a fire. It's -30 in Winnipeg, and your back's soaked and stuff. And I don't know. I like the traditional. Like I could see why some people like the Euros. They could be considered safer, I guess. I don't know, but
The times I've worn it, well, it's only been for combat, but yeah, you have the sound will rattle around in the helmet, and I could imagine you have a hard time telling which direction the sound's coming from.
the only thing they're good for is standing up on the side of the highway when it's -30. Covers your ears up good. So
Right.
that's a big thing with our department now, the Euro helmets. I went into them like with an open, like an open mind. I didn't know what to think of them. But yeah, after the first fire, not being able to actually hear anything, that was the thing that bugged me. And that's like you lose one of your senses when you're fighting a fire. Like if you're in a big building, you're trying to find your hearing's half the battle, trying to hear where the fire is, right? And stuff, and then noise you hear it sucking in air and stuff, and then you gotta be nervous, and it's really sucking in. Yeah, so that's a Euro thing, but yeah, we'll see how that goes. I have a feeling we're sort of stuck with the Euro style for a while.
Are there any calls that stand out to you? Like, are there any calls that stand out for you that you think would benefit other people to hear about?
Got the fire where I messed up my helmet. I was coming up the stairs, and the window was busted out to the right of me, and I just stuck my head right in the flow path, and that's how I watch out for flow path, kids. Don't put your head in the flow path. That's how I melted my stuff. But yeah, I didn't have water yet, but I went to take it. Apparently, there are people upstairs, and I went to go take a quick look. But everyone would have been roasted up there already, anyways. But
Is your department a flow and move department, or do you keep it shut down so you're at the seat? How do you guys handle it?
it's changed so much. Like when I first got on the job, we were inside fighting everything, and now it's like if you don't get it before the chief shows up here, then he's pulling everyone out, and you're surrounded, drowning. Now it's like it's a lot. Firefighting's changed a lot. It's like even the 16 years, 17 years I've been a firefighter in Winnipeg. It's like I can see why they want all about safety and stuff, but sometimes it's fun to get the fire out and be out of there in 45 minutes, and sit there all night and have a big bonfire, basically. So we try to get there. We're doing this fire dynamics program right now with the gas cooling, which is whatever. It is what it is. It's a tool in the toolbox. I'm more of a painting the box kind of guy, flow and go.
Yeah, the UL stuff might help you push things forward. It's all data based, right? It's all research, so.
Yeah, that's all. That's what I need, obviously. Yeah, getting stuff all backed up.
Yeah, it nullifies a lot of the opinion stuff.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's the hardest part with dealing with firefighters is the opinion stuff, especially from certain older guys, right? Like it's been this way forever, right? And this is how we're gonna do it.
So I imagine you guys are mostly fog nozzles on your trucks?
Well, we have fog, and then we have gallons. We can go down to 30 gallons per minute. I think
the selectable gallonage, yeah.
I think they're actually dangerous. I was watching a young guy at a fire, and I'm like watching him try to hit the flames up top, and it's not doing much. And he's gotten 30 gallons per minute. They're good for getting the perfect droplets for the gas cooling, but if you're in a panic situation, I think you can burn yourself up.
Yeah, we're not in there to do math. We're in there to just overwhelm.
Yeah, it's like me. I tell my young guys, I'm like, hey, I'm probably doing more water damage than the fire is when I'm done with this place. So
yeah, but anything the fire's touched is screwed anyways. So
for sure, yeah, the fog stuff is what I can see me working a couple of places, but yeah, I'm slow and go type of guy.
Nice.
I don't think they'll ever change.